So just stay, we can let this all play out. Stay, cover up the wounds with bandages and make pretend like we won't do this all again. So
hey, what's up? It's Austin here, and in this video, I want to show you how to take one vocal track and turn that into a bunch of different harmonies and layers. So even if you're only working with one vocal, you can still have a full vocal production and vocal arrangement. So we're going to dive in and take a look at all of that in 1 second. But before we do, make sure that you subscribe to the Waves channel if you enjoy videos like this. They're dropping tips and tricks all the time. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date. But let's go ahead and let's dive in so I can show you how to build out a vocal, even if you only have one vocal track to work with. Here's what we're working with. It is just one vocal that I have recorded. That's it. That's all we have to use. We can't record more. We didn't get any more stems or multi-tracks from the artist. This is it.
why you gotta be like that? Wait, saying what you can't take back, babe, thinking that I won't remember everything you did. But girl, I love to reminisce. So just stay, we can let this all play out. Stay, cover up the wounds with bandages and make pretend like we won't do this all again.
So it's a clean vocal, but it doesn't have nearly the width or the impact or the texture that I need. Typically when I do pop vocals, I like to have a lead and then a dub for the left, a dub for the right, some different harmonies. But sometimes we don't live in a perfect world and you just don't get those stems or multi-tracks. And as a producer or as a mixing engineer, you need to be able to make it work. Or you want a different texture than a kind of natural human voice can give you. And that's kind of what we're going to do in this video today. So what I want to start with is I kind of want to build up these little response vocals in this pre-chorus right here. So this little guy.
Wait, saying what you can't take back, babe, think
I want those to have a lot more impact. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that layer and I'm going to add Ovox so I can add an octave under and an octave above. So I'm using Ovox as the first insert in my studio rack. So if you want to download any of these presets or chains, you can download my studio rack presets from the Studioverse profile that will be linked below. But basically what I'm doing is just setting this to the key of the song, and then I have this shifted down 12 semitones, which is an entire octave, and up 12 semitones, which is an entire octave. And I'm just adjusting the formant for both of those so they kind of have a little bit of different texture. And then the only other things that I'm doing are using some different effects in this. So I'm using a chorus to kind of spread it out and a compressor to kind of clamp it down. And just by doing those couple things, it gives me this really cool lower and higher octave. And what you can do with kind of artificial harmonies like this is you can add some extra effects afterwards. So I'm going to add this overdrive stomp. This is second on my studio rack chain, and I'm basically just using this to add a little bit of drive and tone. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is add a doubler. And this is just to kind of spread it out so it can kind of sit outside of the middle. I turn the direct chain off and I just have voices 1 and 3 that are panned out and slightly shifted with delay and detuning, and it just kind of helps this become really nice and wide.
babe.
And then you can just kind of tuck that into your mix to taste, and it adds a nice little bit of impact when that little word or phrase comes in.
You gotta be like that. Wait, saying what you can't take back, babe, thinking that I won't.
And the next thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and add some harmonies under this, almost like a vocoder, because I want this to be this like really wide stack so it has a call and response. So I'm going to use harmony. So here's what I have going on in harmony. I have this set to the key again, and I just have basically a bunch of different notes. So I'm almost using this more as a vocoder where I'm not letting these kind of shift. So if I were to do, you know, +5 semitones or 7 semitones, they'll shift notes as notes in that progression change naturally. But what I'm doing is I'm kind of using just the note function so it kind of pins specific notes in different areas of the stereo field. And I'm basically just creating a big suspended chord that falls right into the key of my song. And I'm just using this to kind of spread it out. So you can see that I have a D panned super left. I have a higher D panned super right. I have a G panned like 25% left, an A panned 25% right. I have an E right up the middle. And then I have a fifth over here. Or I guess it's actually more like a third. And then I have a unison right here that the format is just completely kind of drilled on. And by doing those things, it creates this really wide stack. And what I can do is I can kind of use that and tuck that under my response vocal. So it sounds like this. And on harmony, I have the source turned completely off because I only want these different harmonies that I'm kind of generating. And this to me gives me such a cool texture. What's cool about harmony is you can also play this like a vocoder, like if you wanted to play the keys, which we're going to do in just a second. But for this one, I just wanted it to pedal on all of these notes. So I just programmed them in there, basically popped a chord in, and now it's just ripping like that. I don't need a MIDI track. It's kind of operating naturally. So here's what this little pre-chorus sounds like now.
You gotta be like that way, saying what you can't take back, babe, thinking that I won't remember everything. You gotta be like that way, saying what you can't take back, babe, thinking that.
So now we need to build up this actual chorus part right here. So the first thing I want to do is create a doubler channel so I can basically create a left and a right version of this lead vocal. So right down here is literally just a copy and paste of this exact vocal up top. And I'm just using this doubler and I'm taking out the middle channel because I don't need that. I already have that. And I'm just letting this operate on the left and the right. And again, it's just doing some delay shifting. It's doing some tuning and it's doing some panning. And I can kind of use this almost as like a chorus or a doubler just to add width and tuck it into my lead vocal.
We can let this all play out. Cover up the wounds with bandages and may pretend like we won't do this.
It just gives me like a nice little 5 or 10% that you can really use inside of your mix. And you know, mono compatibility won't really matter for this. You already have your lead vocal right up the middle. But if somebody's listening on a wide, big stereo system, it will kind of impart that nice natural width that you might get from triple tracking a vocal and panning it, even if you only have one vocal. The next thing that I want to add is a lower harmony, kind of similar to what we did with Ovox up here, but I only want the lower harmony and I want to use Vocal Bender for that. So here we go. This is the lead vocal duplicated, and then I have popped on Vocal Bender a whole octave down. The format is shifted all the way down. I'm going to throw another instance of a doubler on this with a slightly different preset. So we're going to leave the middle of this one, and then we just have a left version and a right version about 6 dB down. And again, we're just detuning and spreading it. And one thing to keep in mind when you do these artificial low harmonies is you might want to change your de-esser from hitting right around 4.5K to 6K, all the way down to about 2.5K, because those S's turn into these really deep SHs when it goes down a whole octave. So you're going to want to de-ess that in a slightly different space, and you can de-ess it super hard. It doesn't need to have any of that sibilance to cut through a mix. It's just a super compressed texture that sits underneath everything. So it's starting to already sound better. Here's what it sounds like.
Girl, I love to reminisce, so just stay. We can let this all play out. Cover up the.
Let's add our last little layer, which is going to be another instance of harmony, but this one I'm going to play like a vocoder. So here's what we have for harmony. As you can see, we don't have anything set up. And the reason is I don't need this to be generating any notes or anything like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this MIDI file down here that I have programmed. And then simply all you have to do is route it out. So I just have the out going to Harmony Vox hook in. And so now whatever notes I play are basically going to be what controls this vocal. So I'll show you. Let me kind of mute the MIDI that I already had.
We can let this all play out. Cover up bandages and may pretend we won't do this all again.
So you can kind of play whatever chords you want. So here are the chords that I kind of landed on. They just kind of follow what my synth is doing. And everything is playing 3 notes at all times. And it's just giving me this really nice wide vocoder.
We can let this all play out. Cover up the wounds with bandages and may pretend like we won't do this all again.
And when I tuck that underneath the vocal, it gives me this really nice texture, and it almost sounds like I tracked a bunch of harmonies under there.
So just stay. We can let this all play out. Cover up the wounds with bandages and may pretend like we won't do this all again.
Now, let's hear a full before and after. I'm going to go ahead and take away all of the different vocal production that we just added, let you hear what it sounds like, and then we're going to add in all of those extra instances of Ovox and harmony and Vocal Bender and doubler so we can really see what a difference it makes. Here is the vocal we started with.
Why you gotta be like that way, saying what you can't take back, babe, thinking that I won't remember everything you did. But girl, I love to reminisce, so just stay. We can let this all play out. Cover up the wounds with bandages and may pretend like we won't do this all again.
It's cool. It's fine. It's very whatever. Let's go ahead and let's pop in the things that we just did on this tutorial, and you can see what a difference this makes. This feels like a whole vocal arrangement now.
Why you gotta be like that way, saying what you can't take back, babe, thinking that I won't remember everything you did. But girl, I love to reminisce, so just stay. We can let this all play out. Cover up the wounds with bandages and may pretend like we won't do this all again.
And there you have it. That's how you can take one vocal track, duplicate it a million times with a bunch of really cool effects, and turn it into an entire vocal arrangement. If you want to download any of these plugins, there will be a link in the description below. If you want to check out any of my presets, you can check out my Studioverse profile below. And then other than that, make sure that you subscribe to the Waves channel so you can see cool videos like this all the time. But that is going to do it for this tutorial. I'll see you guys soon. Much love. Peace.